Welcome to Almost Agreeable.
Almost Agreeable.
With your hosts, Chris Nellison and Ed Harris. Hang around and listen to opinions on sports, movies, music, and whatever else pops in our head.
All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Almost Agreeable podcast. I'm Chris. With me, as always, is Ed. And we have a guest in today to help us talk about Star Wars, to continue our, saga of Star Wars episodes. I think this is part 4.
Yeah, it's the second trilogy we're going to get into.
Right, the prequel trilogy. We're finally starting that. We've gone ahead and covered A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. We had guests for all 3 of those.
Yeah.
The guest we have today is Paul. Paul's brother Pete was on our Empire Strikes Back episode. So we got a kind of a family thing going on here. They're both big Star Wars nerds. So, hey, Paul, how's it doing? How you doing?
Good. Doing good. Excited to be here and talk a little Star Wars with you guys and rap a little bit.
Well, I knew that once, our IT department and our production supervisor had reached, as soon as she reached out to both you and Pete, I knew you guys would jump off the opportunity to talk about Star Wars. So I didn't think it was going to be a problem to get you in the room.
No, not at all. One of my favorite subjects. So.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We say this probably every time we do a Star Wars episode, but the first one we did, we had intended to do the original trilogy in one episode, and then it became obvious that was not possible.
We didn't realize how childish that was.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, we can talk about all 3 movies in 45 minutes.
Yeah, that was stupid. And so now it's just this kind of evolved into, this is part 4. I imagine before we're done with Star Wars, there could be 10 episodes. Like, we have so much to cover, especially with Mandalorian, season 2 starting last week, and episode 2 coming on here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, let's jump right into the first Star Wars film in the prequel trilogy, the first Star Wars film that was made when we were alive.
Yeah.
Ed and myself. Paul, of course, you were alive for the original trilogy, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So we got kind of 2 generations of perspective here. I really enjoy that. Like, usually when we have other millennials in here, it's pretty... I wouldn't say that the focus is narrow, but it's a little skewed, I guess. So it's great to have you in. Let's jump right in. We had this opening crawl that's... Well, first of all, I guess we can talk about how excited were you? Like, how excited were you, Paul, knowing that a new Star Wars trilogy was coming?
Never originally thought it was going to happen. I mean, we waited 16 years between Jedi and Phantom Menace. So there was rumors that it was going to come out. That circulated for quite a while. And then when it was finally really happening and Lucas was going to take control of it, that was very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And 16 years is a very long time being an avid fan. So there was the EU, the expanding universe, so you just had to read books and had to keep up whenever you could.
Right.
And you didn't really have the technology you had now, so...
I can't really think of anything, I mean, I guess not off the top of my head, that's like that. That was like a very established series, and then, 15 years later, almost 2 decades later, they come out, they're doing, then, again, another trilogy. That was, successful in its own right. Mm-hmm. I just can't think of another story off the top of my head that did that.
It's held its ground for so many years, and it's still, you look at today how popular it is.
Well, it's become now such a machine. Like, obviously, you have that gap, and then you kind of, obviously, you always heard rumors. You knew something had to happen eventually because, you had episodes 4, 5, and 6 already out. So you're like, okay, one day this is going to happen. And now we fast forward 20 years even from when Phantom Menace came out into 2020, where Disney now owns it, and they're just putting out Star Wars like it's fucking Halloween candy, which has been good and bad. We can get there eventually. As I said, I want to narrow our focus back to Phantom Menace. So just like I said, we were talking about how excited you were, how excited I know I was, like as a kid, in the early 90s watching the original trilogy and being a kid and wanting to be Luke Skywalker, and then getting ready for almost a new set of heroes that have been established in lore, but we've never seen in live action, as opposed to, like, you have Vader, but in this one he's Anakin. You have Obi-Wan, but here he's youthful. And so, I mean, opening crawl for me for Phantom Menace? If we can jump there now, is that cool?
Oh yeah, let's hit it.
Opening crawl.
Jump into that opening crawl.
It immediately kind of, to me, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What kind of trade disputes are happening? I was confused. I was also like 11.
Not understand the political intricacies of
That's
trade
what I was
disputes.
saying, right? Like, you think about like their crawls from the original trilogy. It's pretty like, here's some need to know shit. Okay, the Empire's chasing these guys. They gotta get away. He wants Luke, and here we are.
Yeah, there's like 10 people that you really need to worry about.
Yeah.
Very confusing when it first comes out because the openings comes out. You're like, okay, well, all right, let's just jump right into it, and you're kind of waiting to see kind of how it's hashing out and how it's transforming out, and you do get there. Looking at it, I was just going into it. The biggest thing was Darth Vader's story. That's how you're going to look at it.
Right, and that's what we would expect, right? You'd expect this to be, essentially, since original trilogy was Anakin's redemption story, that this would be his downfall story, right? And then, but, I don't want to get that far yet, but we don't meet Anakin until like an hour and a half into the film. Maybe 45 minutes, maybe not an hour and a half.
It's definitely not one of the intro characters.
No, because we get introduced right away to Obi-Wan Kenobi and a new Jedi that we've never heard of, right? Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson. Just got to say that, Liam Neeson brings a lot of clout. Like, he wasn't as popular as he is now back when he was casted in that role. I would say he was in a few movies, but he hadn't been in Taken. Like, he wasn't the badass that we knew he could play in movies quite yet. But he was still like a sage, older character that you could buy. You could buy into him.
He gained the widespread notoriety with Taken, with everything like that. But he has still done a lot before that.
He did.
And so getting into Star Wars, it's like they had when they had Old Ben in
Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
when
they had him in the original trilogy, it's like, okay, this guy carries some weight. Like, he has actually, like, classical acting ability. He knows what he's doing.
Right. And you can, I guess you can kind of say the same for bringing Liam Neeson into the fold.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So there
and he did a great job with it.
I agree. I mean, they even brought his character back, obviously as a Force Ghost, spoiler alert, as a Force Ghost, like, in the animated series, and it's voiced by Liam Neeson. I don't know if you guys know this, but, like, in the Clone Wars, when he's his ghost character, it's Liam Neeson doing the voice. So they brought him back a lot because it really resonated with a lot of fans. So we have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon. They're going to negotiate with the Trade Federation because they're having a blockade of the planet of Naboo, which really looks like, I don't know, it could have been, maybe they just changed it to Alderaan and it makes sense. But Naboo, new planet, looks like Alderaan, not Alderaan, new planet, Naboo. And they're going to go ahead and do some negotiations. And immediately they don't even have any negotiations. They never happened. Gassed.
It never happened.
It never took place.
The negotiations were short.
So we get our first lightsaber action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess something everyone's probably waiting for, right? You knew coming in that with the technology and choreography, you're going to see some badass laser sword fights.
I mean, I didn't think that wasn't something that I had thought going into it, though. Like, watching the original trilogy, it's like everything is pretty slow. Well, of course, it's slow in comparison, but I mean, partially more realistic because it's not just a lot of flares and a lot of jumping around and everything, but it's a lot more calculated. It just is slower. So coming into the Phantom Menace, you're starting to see a lot more flashes, a lot more flashy fights overall. And it just has a different vibe. It's a lot more actiony.
Did you get that, like a different vibe, seeing like...
Way different vibe. I mean, right off the bat, they're on the ship, they're off the ship, they're on the planet, and it's just going really, really fast.
It's pretty quick.
There's no really established... Luke took forever in episode, A New Hope. So you're establishing a good storyline. You're kind of slow, like you said, you're slowly kind of getting into it. This one was... Bam, 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 bam.
Right, you get thrown right into the action. I mean, so they escape the droid control ship, right, and they stow away on separate ships. Can I ask a question here? How the fuck did they not, did they not think, maybe these ships are going to the opposite sides of the planet? But no, conveniently, they're going to go ahead and meet up, in some forest.
Yeah, it worked out perfect. They used the Force.
Now, I'm being nitpicky, but, I'm going to be nitpicky. I love these films, but I'm going to be nitpicky because some of this shit doesn't make sense.
You could do that with any movie. What do you mean every movie makes sense?
We're not talking about any movie right now. We're talking about The Phantom Menace. Okay.
We only have so much time, I think. Yeah, I think you would have to expand on that.
Well, the Force told him. Anyways, we can move on from
yes,
that.
exactly.
And then we meet one of your favorite characters, I think, right? A Gungan. What's his name?
Gosh, what was his name?
Do you don't want to say it either?
What? Who's that big Gungan? Boss
Boss
Nas.
Illmatic.
So you meet Jar Jar, yes, and this is where... Yes. This is where I start having an issue. Because, okay, first of all, they didn't have the CGI like they did back then. Everything was models, they blew up the models.
It was practical effects.
Yeah.
Practical. Now you're seeing, which was unbelievable effects if you watch the movie. The ships, the monsters, everything. Jar Jar just did not make any sense at all.
It didn't.
It still doesn't to today. But my son, who now I'm sharing this Star Wars experience with, loved Jar Jar Binks.
Well, yeah, you got to think about it that way. Like, these were supposed to be kids' movies. So, like, you bring in this political drama in the opening crawl, these negotiations over trade disputes, but then you introduce a character that's going to keep the kids captivated, right? And that is Jar Jar. That's what he's there for. He's the comic relief. Not as comic relief as fucking C-3PO was, because that's, like, ultimate comic relief. Like, but, like, Jar Jar, he's silly. He's silly is a good word.
He is silly.
He's fucking silly.
I never, I mean, going through and watching it, like, I never had... like hatred for him or just like what is he doing or I don't understand it, but I was also like, yeah, Jar Jar. I was just like, I don't know, this guy's weird, you know. And I didn't realize the immense hatred that the internet has and many people have for Jar Jar Binks, like, until I started getting on the internet. I was like, oh my god, he is so hated.
Yes, that poor guy like quit acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot happened with him.
Yeah, it's a sad story. I don't have any hate for Jar Jar, but, like, I don't like the character. Like, I'm not going to hop on Reddit and, like, fucking shit on him, you know? I don't need to do that. That's not something that's my prerogative. Yeah. But I do have problems with the character. Just because he's silly. I can go back to that word again. He's fucking silly. Unnecessary. There's a part we're going to get to later that he's involved in that really doesn't make any fucking sense to me. But we're on Naboo still. Okay, we get to meet these other Gungans. There's a whole civilization under the sea, right? And Obi-Wan's trying to tell this dude, like, hey, you guys form a circle here. Whatever happens up there is going to affect you eventually. You guys should, I don't know, do something. And they're like, get the fuck out. Got to use some Jedi mind tricks and get out of there. Qui-Gon does some questionable shit with the Force, but we'll
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
Just for starters, okay, he, like, pretty much just swindles his way to get a ship from Boss Nass. Later on, he influences the dice so he can have Anakin. He's just like, he's doing questionable shit with the Force. Oh, like, credits will do fine. Like, motherfucker, I'm about to pay you with dirt. And if you weren't a Toydarian, then I could go ahead and make this happen. But because you have some kind of Jedi mind block bullshit because of your species, I can't. But I was going to. I was going to rip you off.
Yeah.
Questionable shit. Sorry.
It's for the greater good.
Sure.
It's for the assist.
Yeah, it's just... Sure. Anyways, like I said, I'm getting ahead of myself. We're still on Naboo.
But the Gungan City was very cool. The whole technology they had. It gave you another world within a world. So them exploring all these different worlds was kind of cool.
Yeah, this is where, like, the expanded, like, universe, if you'll use that term, started to become explored, right? Like, in the original trilogy, you had a few different places. You had Tatooine, Endor, Alderaan, maybe, the Death Star, whatever. But here's where we start getting into glimpses into, like, the universe as a whole, right? Because eventually we end up on Coruscant. We're on Naboo now. We're going to be on Tatooine. We're going to hear about other planets, like the Outer Rim, different species like the Gungans, and...
It just becomes more exotic. That's exactly the things that I was going to say. Like, whenever you're in the original trilogy, you're going to, like, Bespin, you're going to Hoth, you're going to all these different places. You see a couple different creatures. You're seeing some different civilizations, but it's all still, like, bipedal, like, human-based. And then in The Phantom Menace, not even counting the rest of them, we're seeing all of these different styles of civilizations. And it really does make things feel alien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more like, because it is Star Wars, right? It's set in a galaxy far, far away, which you'd expect these extraterrestrial beings And then we get to the Capitol and we meet, the Queen. And she's kind of weird.
She's kind of weird.
She's kind of weird. Just kind of like very monotone, and I don't know. Anyways, we meet the Queen. And then the Jedi, they rescue her.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah.
She's very... talks like a robot almost.
Yeah.
You don't know how to gauge her. You're just like, is she mean? Or is she like, just like regal? Or I don't know what's going on.
It's also Keira Knightley.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not forget. For a little bit. Here and there, it's Keira Knightley.
Yeah,
here and there, it's Keira Knightley. And the Jedi rescue her. Jar Jar's there, I guess. And they escape, and they get on a ship, and they're going to get past the blockade.
There's the blockade.
And this is where we get first introduced to a character that's literally in every film of this saga. Do you know who I'm talking about?
R2.
R2, yes. Very good. I knew it. Yeah. I knew you knew, but he was quick on the joke. Look at that. And we see that he was just a droid that was on this ship, in case the
Shield generator's been hit.
And then he goes out there and fixes it. And all the other droids get fucked up. Like, toast.
Like, big time.
Yeah. Can I ask, if you have a shield, how does your shield generator get hit?
It wasn't on. It was exposed. So then it got hit. So then you should probably generate it.
See, these are questions I want to ask George Lucas.
Do you feel like you're going to be happy with an answer? With any answer? Do you feel like you're going to be happy?
No, I'm being a dick now. Like I said, I'm being nitpicky.
Okay.
I'm being an asshole.
Okay. I just had to ask that question.
But I really do. I'm curious. But we can move on. Any thoughts on that, Paul?
None at all. I think there was a lucky shot somewhere. And once again, they're in peril.
Yeah, they're in peril. R2 saves them. Classic R2. It's fucking G.
Always.
So they do not have enough gas or whatever energy stuff to get to Coruscant. So we have to go to this
the
desert.
Center of the universe in the Star Wars universe.
Seriously.
Tatooine.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Tatooine is the center of the universe, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because Luke can talk all he wants about, if there was a center of the universe where the planet farthest from, bullshit, motherfucker, we're always on Tatooine. You guys must be in a central-ass location.
Yes.
Outer Rim my ass.
Yes. I think when it comes to the Skywalkers, you're always going to have Tatooine, no matter what.
Yeah, well, even fucking the Mandalorian's been to Tatooine a few times. We won't get too deep into Mandalorian. That'll be another episode.
We'll do a full coverage of that later.
But I mean, in every extended universe, whether it be a feature, a TV series, Tatooine has been in the middle of it.
This desolate planet, which is just pivotal for some reason. It's always back to Tatooine, like you said.
Always back to Tatooine.
Yeah. So they land on Tatooine. Qui-Gon's got to go procure a new shield generator, essentially. And he's going to go into Mos Eisley, right? Mos Eisley? Is that where he's going? And he's going to take R2 because he has the layouts of the ship. And for some reason, he leaves the two most logical people on the ship. That's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Captain Tanaka, the head of security. They stay. They send a handmaiden, quote-unquote, Natalie Portman.
Yep.
And
because the Queen wanted the
exactly
to go.
Right. This is your first kind of hint. I don't know. I was a kid, so I didn't pick up on this. But I imagine, as an adult, when I watched it, I was like, oh, yeah, I kind of figured, she's probably the Queen.
Definitely not.
No?
For me, absolutely not. I was just I found out, way later, I was like, oh, snap. And then it all made sense later. But definitely first time watching through it, I was just like, why would you think, of course you would want to send somebody trusted to her to go out and explore and see what this guy's doing out there when he's actually exploring.
Because he does questionable shit with the Force.
So I'm just saying you'd want to send your trusted advisor, not yourself, because, you're a queen. Send them out there, see what's going on so they can report back to you what it is. I'm not thinking that,
there's a clue. It's there. It's in the stuff. Listen, fuck all that.
It's not fair for you to say that after you've seen it.
But, fair. Okay, you know who else goes on this fucking excursion? Fucking Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, Jar Jar, yeah.
The old Jar Jar Binks. He's everywhere.
Why?
Yeah, you can't escape him.
Why is he going?
Yeah,
so he can step in the doo-doo?
That's the doo-doo. Yeah.
Keep an eye on, so Qui-Gon maybe keep an eye on him or something. Maybe they want him off the ship.
Get him, we're trying to fix this.
Yeah.
You know, if he's messing around with anything.
He could lose his guy.
You
in the
can tell
desert.
that Obi-Wan's very impatient with them. So
They
they take a vote. They're like, hey, you gotta take this motherfucker.
Like you're saying, yeah, we might lose him in the desert.
We
now.
might lose him in the desert.
Oh, whoops! Something happened. He's
What
an
happened?
amphib-
Didn't you leave with 3 humans? Or 3 humanoids?
He's like, yeah.
We lost one.
He's an amphibian. He didn't do well in the desert.
He got fucked up by Sebulba. Sebulba fucked him up. See, another thing Anakin did wrong, bro. He saved fucking Jar Jar. Anyways, we'll get there.
All right.
So they get into town. They go into a shop, one of the smaller shops that Qui-Gon suggests, the smaller dealers. And they go in, and we meet Anakin Skywalker. We finally meet him. He's this little boy. He's a slave.
Working on a droid?
Working on a droid. And Qui-Gon and Watto, they're going to go look at parts. We introduce to Anakin. We find out that he's a slave. We find out that he's, gifted mechanically. And he's right away in love with Padme.
She's an angel.
She's an angel, yes.
She's an angel. And this is pivotal because this is where these two meet. Leading up to greater things.
Greater is a word maybe we could use, but also like the downfall begins here.
Of the galaxy.
Of the galaxy, yeah. Everything that happens stemmed from this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
but very, very pivotal in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, huge.
Definitely.
Huge. Easy to kind of overlook if you're not paying attention. If you just want to see like, lightsabers and shit, it's easy to kind of overlook that. But it's a big moment. So, again, Qui-Gon trying to swindle Watto. Can't do it. For some reason, the Jedi mind tricks don't work on Tridarians. And they have to leave. So, they're going to get caught in a sandstorm. Well, first, they walk past the shop. Jar Jar does some dumb shit. Throws some food at Sebulba. Sebulba's like, hey, I'll fuck you up. And then Anakin comes, and he's like, hey, don't.
Starts talking to him.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, chill out.
Yeah.
We're good.
So, saves Jar Jar. Damn it. That was our chance. Qui-Gon was like, fuck. That was our chance to lose it.
Almost got rid of him.
I love Sebulba, by the way.
Just a badass character.
He is a badass.
He was so awesome.
They actually go, that whole species, I think they're called like Dugs or something. They live on a planet, and there's like a whole episode arc on Clone Wars about their planet, like, during the war. So, pretty cool. They're not all assholes like Sebulba. There's some pretty cool ones.
But he took a little sting out of the Jar Jar. You know what I mean? Jar Jar was kind of silly and goofy, and then here comes Sebulba, just totally badass.
Yeah.
He's going to choke Jar Jar out of his life, and you're like, okay, this guy's bad, but I kind of like him.
So, Anakin takes them in. We find out that he knows about Jedi. He thinks that they're invincible, essentially. And Qui-Gon learns pretty quickly that this kid is blessed by the Force.
He's special.
Yeah.
In some way, he can just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately.
And it gets to a point where Qui-Gon finds out that... Well, we get introduced to the theory of midi-chlorians. And I don't want to spend too much time on it due to our time constraints here. Midi-chlorians is something I can harp on another time. But we find out that Anakin, in fact, has more midi-chlorians than Master Yoda. So he's, destined to be very powerful. And this is where Qui-Gon makes the decision, like, hey, we need this boy needs to come with us. He needs to be trained.
He asked his mom about the father.
Yeah. And there was no father, right? He was a virgin in the Force, they like to say. Mm-hmm. And just kind of manifested by the Force.
Now you start getting very biblical with that because
of Jesus.
He's born of nothing. Yeah.
And this is where we kind of get into where pod racing, one of the coolest parts of the movie in my opinion, a pod race was badass. So he's going to race his pod. Qui-Gon does some shady shit, and he bets the fucking freedom of Anakin, but can't get his mom. It's whatever. The pod racing scene is badass.
Pod racing scene was probably my favorite of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Just when it originally came out, like I said, we didn't have the CGI back in the original ones, so seeing a pod racing like this was just phenomenal.
I remember being in the theater as young as I was, but just the sounds of the pod engines, in the theater were just you could feel it in your bones. It was badass. It was awesome.
And that spawned so much. I mean, one of my favorite games of all time is the Nintendo 64 pod racing game. That game is fantastic.
That game's awesome. It was hard. I was young and I was not very good. I was always crashing into shit, losing every race. So that's but no, fun game nonetheless. And I don't want to spend too much time. Like I said, we have a lot of movie to cover still. But any final thoughts on the pod race?
Anakin uses the Force. He's just a great racer. Like he's a great pilot. Great. Like he has the instincts to be able to do all of
right.
this.
We see this finally because this is something that Obi-Wan alluded to in the original trilogy. He's one of the greatest pilots I've ever seen. And this kind of the building block of that. Like we see his instincts and his reflexes and all that.
Well, you see him use the Force too in the race. You probably know the name of the part, but he's trying to get the part, and he
the coupling, the coupling falls out. Yep,
pulls it right on over
while he's still maintaining the pod.
Yeah.
So he wins the race. He wins his freedom, and we're gonna go ahead and we're taking him to Coruscant before the Jedi Council. So before we even get on the ship, though, we get a surprise visit from one of the most underused villains of all time, in my opinion. Right? We get Darth Maul coming in hot. And can we mention how cold-blooded Darth Maul is? Because he was just going to run over Anakin.
Yeah, immediately. That was just...
Yeah.
He's like, I'm here to kill Qui-Gon, but I'll run with this little motherfucker. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm just going to kill his kid just cuz.
Yeah. I'm going to hit you right now.
And so we have a little duel. You could tell that after the fight, Qui-Gon is like, fuck, this dude was for real.
It's no joke.
Like, he's all out of breath. He's like... He was very well trained in the Jedi arts, like.
He's trained in the arts.
So, because at this point the Sith are extinct. General knowledge is that they're extinct.
Correct.
So they don't even use that word yet, until they get to the Jedi Council. Right, we get to Coruscant. We find out that the Senate is not buying Queen Amidala's story. They don't think that that's really happening. The invasion of the Trade Federation on Naboo, and she puts in a vote of no confidence for the Chancellor. And this is part of the grand scheme of things as we get introduced to Palpatine, the senator from Naboo, who actually, I don't think we find out in this movie, but do we know that he is the Emperor?
I think if you follow Star Wars, it's,
You know that Palpatine is Darth Sidious.
The very first time he comes on screen. I don't think if you knew or seen the original ones, you don't have any idea.
No. Right, yeah.
Which I wish I would have known, because that makes it so much more of a surprise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So
kind of going into it, you're like, oh yeah, there he is.
Right, and by his logic, right, he's going to be nominated. He's going to be nominated to be the new Chancellor. So while that's going on, Qui-Gon, he goes ahead and takes Anakin before the Council, and we get introduced to Yoda, Mace Windu, some other Jedi Masters on there, Ki-Adi-Mundi. They straight up were like, dude, no, he's too old.
And you already have a Padawan.
And you could tell Obi-Wan's a little bothered by this too.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, I'm your Padawan.
I still am learning, I still would like to get fully trained. I wouldn't want to have split attention, right. I want to be adept as a Jedi.
And he does get a great vote of confidence from Qui-Gon, though. Qui-Gon's like, he's ready for the trials. There's not much I can teach him left. He can do it. But
in the sense, even with Obi-Wan and the rest of the Jedi Council, they're seeing something. They're not seeing what Qui-Gon's seeing. Qui-Gon's like, this is the prodigy, this is the kid, and they're all like, not really, but hey, let's roll with it. We'll see what happens.
Right. It's because when they're talking about it later on, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, he's like, the Council senses it too. Why don't you? There's something off about this kid. And, at this point, he's a kid. So, you don't, as a general viewer of the film, you're like, he's just a little kid. He's fine. Whatever. He looks like an innocent kid. We don't get angsty fucking Anakin until Attack of the Clones. But anyways.
Would you say that the Council was more... Would you say that Qui-Gon was more blinded to what Anakin could become than the Council was more blinded to what he could become? So, in the sense of... The Council has very strict rules. It is the Jedi Council, and it's you should live this certain way. And Qui-Gon was he always towed the line. Like you said, he does questionable stuff, so he always kind of towed the line. And I've talked with Chris about this, that I feel like Qui-Gon was probably the person that Anakin needed most to be able to not become
Darth Vader.
Yeah, and who knows if Qui-Gon would have trained Anakin, it would have turned out differently, but I think Qui-Gon wasn't on the Council.
No, and because that's another thing Obi-Wan says. He's like, you could have been on the council ages ago, but you keep defying them.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it goes back to what you said. Like, he's always been towing the line. He does questionable things. He's not like a rogue, but like he's definitely like not a traditional Jedi.
Definitely, he's definitely not that traditional, like following the Jedi code to a T, like so strict about life, and not, trying to coddle Anakin, but definitely he's a person. He's understanding, and I think that's what Anakin needed. But the Jedi Council is very adamant on their code.
Right. I would say like compared to Qui-Gon, they're all stiffs.
Yeah.
They're very traditional. They're very set in their ways. They're almost lack like humanity in a sense because of their vows that they take. So like Qui-Gon has those, like he has empathy, he has understanding, he has emotions, and not in a sense that it's going to turn to the dark side, like he's still a Jedi, but like in the sense that like he would probably be able to train Anakin better than anybody else in the Jedi Order at that time. I mean, we meet other Jedi in the extended universe that, are great, but, like, as far as the characters we're introduced to in this film, Qui-Gon was probably the guy. And we don't get to see that through.
Yeah.
Eventually, like, Qui-Gon says, fuck y'all, I'm going to train him.
I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So.
And he's coming back with me. The Queen's going to go back to Naboo and try to liberate it herself, which also doesn't make sense. But don't worry, I'm not going to get into that. Any thoughts before we leave Coruscant?
Well, that's true. I mean, she has to go back because she can't wait for the bureaucracy and the votes and everything else. So she's, I think, like Qui-Gon, she has to set her own path. She just has to go and do what needs to be done.
Right, and she's desperate, right?
Desperate.
So, yeah, 100%, I can agree with that. Obviously, seeing the film, we know what ends up happening, but like at first glance, it's like, how are you going to do this? Like, even Qui-Gon says, like, I can't fight a war for you. Like, I'm here I can protect you, but that's it. So they get back to Naboo. We bring Anakin. Jar Jar's excited to go home.
We're going home! Come on, R2.
Yeah.
And we find out the Queen's plan. She's going to appeal to the Gungans. And she's going to use Jar Jar for this. She got this idea on Coruscant, asking what happened to the Gungans. They have a secret place, and like they have an army and stuff. So they get back there and they go to appeal, and this is where we learn the big reveal.
Yeah.
That the Queen that's been in the movie the whole time is actually a decoy, Keira Knightley.
That the real Queen's been running around doing whatever she wanted with Qui-Gon, with these Jedi just experiencing.
Right. It's kind of badass too.
No, that's dope.
That's dope. And at this point, like, she's like 14.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's young. She's a teenager.
Well, Natalie Portman, when they were in front of the council, was the Queen. She was the Queen.
Yeah, she had dressed
so
up.
So you get to see Natalie Portman, but you can't really tell it's her.
Yeah. Because of the paint and stuff.
Because of the paint, but that was Natalie Portman, and then when they go back to the Gungans, kind of the same deal. I'm the handmaiden, look at me, oh.
Yeah.
yeah. And the Gungans agree. Like, okay, cool. We'll fight with you.
Let's do it.
Misa liked the Naboo now. So, Gungans, they have some fucking amazing technology.
They have some weird technology.
Like some random shields on some giant creatures. Randomly. Maybe it's not random. I don't know a whole lot about Gungans.
They got some big old EMP balls.
Yeah, they got the blue balls out there calling them.
Yeah,
Here's a blue ball.
It's weird technology. It works.
It works because you're fighting against droids.
Yeah.
Like if it was a human army, what do you?
Not bad weapons for underwater creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess a primitive species. Would you say? Would you think they're primitive?
I wouldn't say primitive. I mean, they do live underwater. They have built huge cities and like civilization underwater.
Okay, maybe not primitive.
Just different. And that's just one of the things that I like. It is so different. It's so foreign that you're just like, this is super weird, but I like it.
Okay.
Nothing you've seen before.
Yeah.
And they could be primitive compared to others, or they could be way more advanced.
Maybe in the grand scheme of things in like the Star Wars universe, maybe they're primitive. But like to me and you, like we're primitive.
They're more
like Gungans are more advanced than we are.
They're more advanced than Tusken Raiders.
Yep. Great analogy.
Perfect.
I like that.
Perfect.
Good. So they get ready for battle, right? They get their shields deployed. They're chilling, waiting for the droids to come. Eventually, this is part of the plan. They're drawing the droid armies out of the capital. And then this is when Queen Amidala and the Jedi are going to infiltrate to capture the Viceroy and force him to sign a new treaty. And I said it like that because that's what she says. Sorry.
No, that was perfect.
Okay. So they get in, and at this point we have a few different things. This is one thing I think that I'm not a huge fan of it. It was whatever when I was a kid. Like I loved every second of it because I was younger. But like as an adult looking back, there are 4 different things happening in this like sequence. You have the showdown between the Gungans and the droids. You have the starfighter battle because they're trying to take out the droid control ship. You have the lightsaber battle between Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul. And then you have the Queen trying to get into the throne room.
Yeah.
And it's all just jumping. And some of it's comedy, some of it's dark, some of it's exciting. And it's all just intermixed together. And, like, it's just a whole lot, like, packed into maybe, like, a 20-minute segment.
Yeah. It's a lot going on. We get some really iconic moments from that section as well.
Right.
I mean, we have Anakin going up to go help when he's just a child.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, they said to stay put. All right,
I'm gonna stay put
I'm staying
out
in the
here.
cockpit.
I'm in the cockpit.
And then we have, I mean, one of my favorite scenes, moments of any type of cinema ever is, they're fighting Darth Maul and his lightsaber extends and then the other side extends.
Right, that's like when the door opens
Yeah.
and the beginning of A Duel of Fates starts playing.
Yeah.
Which is one of the greatest, John Williams, obviously we talk about him a lot, but from like the entire saga, this is one of my favorite scores from it.
We'll handle this.
We'll take the long way.
Iconic.
Yeah, so that song starts playing, the doors open, Maul's there, he lights up one side of his lightsaber, you're like, oh, he's dead. And then this one comes out, and you're like, holy shit.
Padme and all them are going to go, we'll take the long
Yeah, they're like,
It's like,
Qui-Gon's like, we'll deal with this, and they're like, we gotta find a new way.
And Qui-Gon in that looks a little uneasy, but Obi-Wan looks like,
He's fucking ready.
all right.
Young Wolf, ready to go.
Yeah, he
Young
looks
Wolf.
fucking ready.
And he's been like that forever. I mean, I don't want to talk about the other movies, but if you think of everything that Obi-Wan has done throughout the movies,
Oh, yeah.
unbelievable.
And even the extended universe, like within the Clone Wars and stuff like that.
His decision-making has always been just immediate. Whatever he wants to do, he just does it then.
Yep.
Exactly.
And he was fucking ready, and they start doing battle. And it looks like, essentially this battle, for the first part of it, is Qui-Gon and Maul.
Yeah.
Essentially what Maul is doing, he's like kicking Obi-Wan away.
It's like, yeah, kid.
But
He's like, fuck off, kid.
Going back to the other lightsaber, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, because you had a little bit in the first 3, He
Right.
gives Luke this
Yeah.
lightsaber, he opens it up, they kind of fight. He had a little bit better fight in the second one, and it starts evolution, And then this one, when you see the other side go up, I'll tell you, goosebumps all over my body. It was just, this is probably the coolest. Of course, now they can do anything, flip and
Right,
see
right.
all that stuff.
That must have been such a moment.
Seeing that just like that changes the game. Like you're just used to this lightsaber as this one type of weapon.
Like a sword.
Exactly.
And now it's essentially like a staff.
There's a name. There's a name for that weapon. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not a historian.
You knew he meant business. Like you knew, like, oh fuck.
Yeah, if somebody can wield this weapon with proficiency, that's a problem.
Right.
That's a very.
And
big
he was
problem.
amazing. Like he obviously was very gifted in the Force, whether he's a dark side user, so whatever. But he was. I mean, he took them both. Like he kills Qui-Gon. Like he wins that duel, and he gets cheap shotted essentially. Not cheap shotted, but like he gets cocky. Right. We'll go ahead and jump to that. Like Qui-Gon dies. It's a very emotional moment, but we barely have time to process it because as soon as those shields go away, Obi-Wan's fucking ready.
He's right in there.
It almost is kind of scary because he was. I'm not going to say he did tap into the dark side or anything, but like borderline, like if you think about it in terms of the Force, like he's probably pretty close.
Well, yeah. I mean, he just sees his master die, and then. I mean, I was worried. Like, he goes in there, like, of course, it's a movie. There's a hero. The good guys usually win, but, like, one just died. And that was, the the quote unquote better of the two. It was the master.
The master.
Mm-hmm.
So he runs right towards him, and you're definitely worried for what's going to happen.
Right. I mean, obviously knowing that he's in episode 4, 5, and 6, that he's going to be around. But also, you still get a sense of like anxiety a little bit. He runs in there. The choreography is really, I would say, not overdone, but it's really good. And they're battling, and then Darth Maul fucks him up too. He fucking shoves him down that shaft.
Yeah, almost falls down all the way down.
Wasn't for this little peg, we don't get fucking episodes, and we don't get any more Star Wars. Like, that's it.
Anything else.
That's it. So meanwhile, that's happening. You know, the shields go down for the Gungans, and they are getting fucked up by the droids. They eventually surrender. They're walking around surrendering, which I don't know why the droids are taking prisoners. This is weird. I'm pretty sure I can quote Darth Sidious saying, "Wipe them out."
Wipe them out. All of them.
But they're taking prisoners. Anyways, Anakin at the same time is going to go ahead and accidentally blow up the fucking droid control ship because he flies into the hole.
Yeah.
Right. He destroys that. Droids go bye-bye. Ship explodes. He's a hero. He's fucking awesome. And we go right back into Obi-Wan hanging out in the shaft. If this is an important note to make, that Darth Maul had the high ground.
Mm-hmm. At first.
And then...
He did have the high ground.
He had the high ground, but Obi-Wan tried it, and it worked out for him.
It worked out.
And that's when he learned his lesson. He's like, you know what? I can never lose when I have the high ground. I learned my lesson. That dude fucked up. I'm never going to be cocky like that. If I have the high ground...
That's it.
That's it.
I'll burn you.
So, pretty much at the end here, right? We stop the Trade Federation. They're done. So, final thoughts before we leave off on this film.
It was good. I mean, the whole sequencing was good. Like you said, there was 4 different things kind of going on at the same time. It was good. Anakin's was, you know, I always pictured young Anakin as this dark, broody, you know, little kid, you know, quiet.
Right?
You know, like, but here he's kind of, hey, I'm going to hit this button, see what happens.
I'll try spinning. That's a cool trick.
He's a little kid. He's boisterous.
Yeah.
He's just having fun. He's not a moody, you know,
He's
dark.
not. He was very,
Innocent.
very innocent.
Yeah. And that is, you know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So you know, like, if you... Well, I mean, I guess at this point you don't know what caused him to fall to the dark side. So you're just like, how can this person... Like, what happens? What pivotal moment happens to this child who's so bright and, like, full of youth and exuberance and just saved everyone, really? Like, what happens to him that puts him on this path?
Right.
And that's, I think, the exciting thing to see in the next coming ones is how this fall take place. So, as far as a opening movie, this was, you know, it was a good tone to set for the next
The rest. And then, you know, obviously, you know, I don't want to glance over this, is that they tell Obi-Wan, okay, you can train him.
Yep.
Right, so...
But he's like, wait, I don't know if I'm ready for that, but, like, I'll do it.
He's like, I promise Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
Right? I'll promise Qui-Gon I'm going to do it. And he's dead set on it. He's like, I'm going to do it. And he does. And so we leave off the movie with that, is that now Anakin is Obi-Wan's Padawan. Everything is set. Everything that's been established, essentially, like, in lore from the original trilogy that's been mentioned briefly, is now set up. We have a Padawan and Anakin, Master Obi-Wan. We have a villain, Darth Sidious. And, you know, the sky's the limit from here. Like, you know, we have 2 movies to delve into what the fucking downfall was of this character.
Yeah. It perfectly sets it up. It's just that intro of all of these characters, not all of the characters, but some key characters that we know, and then it leaves it just really not wide open, but it leaves a lot to be developed for what is to come.
Right. So definitely not my favorite Star Wars film of the saga, but probably ranks like out of 6.
Out of 6?
Out of 6, it's probably number 5. I'm not gonna lie. It's not the worst.
What's number 6?
Attack of the Clones.
Dude, don't disrespect Attack of the Clones like that.
The only reason Attack of the Clones is like maybe redeemed is because the Clone Wars series. That's it. Anyways, that's a conversation for another time. I think it's time for Hot Route.
Everybody's favorite segment, Hot Route.
Hot Route. You ready for Hot Route, Paul?
Let's do it.
All right, I got 3 Hot Routes for you guys. So we've been talking about all these characters. Like we have so many pivotal characters in the original trilogy. We have great characters in the prequel trilogy. And one of the characters we've been talking about is so extremely pivotal, he's been only in this one. It's Qui-Gon Jinn. So what would you say Qui-Gon's most influential moment is? I mean, maybe to Anakin, Obi-Wan, the Council in general. Like, you don't have to answer all of those, but like, what are a couple of his most influential moments? I mean, throughout the entire saga.
Pivotal in the thing is, I think, when he's talking to Obi-Wan and he's like, you got to live in the moment, you know? And so, you know, I think there's some concern to Obi-Wan why Qui-Gon's not on the council and why he's not like the others. And I'm under you and I want to see you on the council. And this is the way it is. This is the way Jedis are. This is the way the system is. Why are you doing this? And he's trying to explain to Obi-Wan, hey, look, you know, there's one way to do it, or you can live in the moment. And I think it was a good introduction to what it means to be a Jedi instead of being part of the Jedi.
That's perfect.
I like that.
That's, yeah.
For me, it's, I mean, obviously, I'm going to be real obvious. It's finding Anakin. I mean, it's a big moment, obviously, like without him finding, you know, this virgins in the Force and deciding right then and there that he was going to train him. Even though he died, like, he still got him off Tatooine, defied the Council, made Obi-Wan promise, like all of that, all of the things he did to set up Anakin to be trained as a Jedi. Probably the most influential thing, like, if not even just because the whole saga is about Anakin, but like even if it wasn't, even if this whole prequel trilogy was about Obi-Wan, it's still pivotal and the most influential thing to me that he found Anakin.
Definitely. Good answers, boys. All right, hot route number 2. So, I mean, we have it's the first episode of a new saga, of a new series. We have new planets, a new universe, and it's the same galaxy and everything, but you know, it's a different time. So, what was one of the most exciting things? And I mean, we might have already covered it, but what was one of the most exciting things that just felt different, or really just wowed you?
Well, for me, it has to be the fact that, like, this is a republic. Like, there isn't, like, an empire. There's no stormtroopers. There's no, like, grand armies. There's this whole fucking Senate chamber where all these fucking planets are here and they meet and they discuss issues kind of like what we have in this country, like a Senate. And that's, you know, that's completely different. I mean, we heard it alluded to, like, before the Dark Times, before the Empire, like, there was a republic. The Jedis were the guardians of, you know, peace for thousands of generations, and it's like, we see that. Look how many Jedi there are. In fucking the original trilogy, it's Obi-Wan and Yoda and Luke.
It's a couple.
There's a few. In this, we get to see the Jedi at their full strength. That was pretty exciting to me.
No, same, yeah, because when you watch the originals, it's pretty much bits and pieces, and your father fought in the Clone Wars, and Darth Vader killed your father, and there used to be a Jedis and Clone Wars and all that stuff. So this is the beginning of, there's a whole bunch of Jedis. There's a whole, you know, it's not just Vader's the leader and it's the Empire. Now you're seeing the Senate, you're seeing the Jedi Council, you're seeing how it's kind of unfolding out. New worlds. And like I said, you're seeing a whole bunch of new CGI that's never been done before. And you see some familiar characters, you know, C-3PO, how he was made.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
The Mecha. And then you see R2, you know, so you see some familiar names. And so it kind of ties it in a little bit, has some familiar. You see Obi-Wan when he was young. And so it was different, a little bit different there. Because now you're kind of seeing this background to your family's history.
Sweet.
Deep.
Deep. Yeah.
You guys got into it. I like that.
Yeah.
The third one is not as deep.
Okay.
It's not
surface level.
Hot route number 3. Do you believe Shmi? Do you believe Anakin's mom?
Yes.
He's born of the Force. Sounds pretty sketchy.
No.
said no. And Papa Palpatine came in and was like, "Hey, girl."
Who's Anakin's daddy?
It was some junk trader one night.
So that's my question. Who's Anakin's daddy?
Palpatine. Papa Palpatine came on to Tatooine, dude. And he was like, "Sup, girl?" This is back before he had a scrotum face. Young senator from Naboo, like, coming, "Hey, man, I'm a senator." This is back before senators couldn't have sex, apparently. Because that's all that Padme says.
I believe he was born. She was just born, I guess, that way. Midi-chlorians. How? I'm not too sure, but...
Darth Plagueis.
Hey, you never know.
Ooh,
but the answer to who is Anakin's daddy is Obi-Wan. Because he just wrecks him.
Because he had the high ground.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all the time we got today. There's some good hot routes. Stick with us, right? We still have a few movies to go, and I'm sure we're going to dive into some of the extended Universal series, especially, absolutely, The Mandalorian one of these days. But, yeah, that was fun. Broke ground on the prequel trilogy. So, Paul, thank you for coming in.
Yes.
Like I said, I always love having people in, especially people that, have maybe a different perspective than Ed and I have. And in this regard, you were alive for the original trilogy, so you have a whole different wave of emotions, which we can't convey from ourselves. So I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
And look to have you back in the future. I'm sure you'd love to probably do a Mandalorian episode as well.
Lots to talk about.
So with that, as always, I'm Chris.
I'm Ed.
And this has been Almost Agreeable. Thank you for listening to another episode of Almost Agreeable. You can catch all new episodes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, rate, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Almost Agreeable.